Coalesce 2022 is in full effect right here in New Orleans. But guess what? Our virtual community is also thriving. And it's the first time we are all together. But don't just take my word for it. I want you to hear from all of the amazing people who are enjoying Coalesce.
There's real magic to being together in person. The DBT community was born at meetups. Sometimes the best answer to what's so great about DBT is just an invitation to a DBT meetup. And here we are, the biggest DBT meetup ever.
My name is Robert Holmes. I am from Atlanta, Georgia.
My name is Marta. I come from Berlin, Germany.
I am from Bogota, Colombia.
I'm from Baltimore, Maryland.
Honestly, to have everybody working remotely and now being here together to be able to interact and hug, it's a great experience.
I'm part of the DBT community, and as you can probably just feel all around, it's a very tightly knit community.
So I'm actually really excited for the parade tonight. So it'll be good to just see all the faces, all the beads and everything, and have a good time. It's going to be a great party.
Well, welcome back to Coalesce 2022, day number 3. I am so excited that you are here. From the looks of things, some of you are still at breakfast or maybe in bed, but we're not going to judge you if you're here in New Orleans because we know that you had an amazing time. But guess what? You still have time to come down and grab your seat. Now, I don't know about you, but yesterday was absolutely epic. Would you agree? Not only did we kick off the day with a powerful keynote presentation, we had ecosystem talks. We had talks from community members as well as some great lunch and snacks, as well as we ended up being a part of a second line parade that led us to the Champion Square, which I thought was amazing. In addition to that, I saw a few of you who were at the Dave & Buster's event as well, which was also amazing. So we are not just here. We are connecting. We are collaborating. But more importantly, we are coalescing. And that is something that I know that event team has made a priority. So let's go ahead and jump into what's happening today. Again, my name is Quinn Conyers, and I have the honor, the privilege, and the pleasure to be with you for the next few days as your energetic MC. Now, I mentioned yesterday that my pronouns are she and her, but I am still answering to awesome and amazing. So if you call me Quinn or awesome or amazing, I will answer you. In addition to that, we do understand we are still in a pandemic. So in the event that you feel a little bit unwell or you just want to make sure that you are operating at your greatest capacity and you want to check in, on the second floor, Imperial number 2, which is actually on the 4th floor, you can actually visit our in-house physicians. So let's go ahead and dive into today's agenda. Our first speaker of the day will be Bilal Aslam. He will be leading a talk titled DBT, Labs and Databricks, Best Practices and Future Roadmap. Now, Bilal leads product management for data engineering at Databricks. Previously, he co-founded a startup which exited to DocuSign in 2018. Here's a couple things that you should know about him. Number 1, he lives in Amsterdam. Number 2, he is a dad of not 1, not 2, but 3 awesome and amazing children. In addition to that, he is a chef in the making, which means he is super popular at home with pots and pans. In addition to that, he is a lover of languages. When him and I talk, guess what? He knows over 5 languages, which I believe is super impressive. Now, later on in his session, Bilal is going to be joined by a very special guest. His name is Nana Esseman Sr. He is a director of data engineering at Conde Nast. Now, when Nana joins him on stage, Nana is someone who you should definitely pay attention to because he leads the global data engineering team focusing on bringing both first-party and third-party data sets into Condé Nast for downstream machine learning and analytics use cases. He also is a lecturer at Columbia University in New York City, an applied data science course for social scientists. And I heard that one of his students is actually in the audience today. So I'm not sure if the student is here, but that I think is a super fun fact. In addition to that, Nana is from Ghana, In addition to that, Nana also enjoys literally just having a great time and hanging out with Bilal, which I think is pretty cool as well. So let's go ahead and put our hands together and kick off day number 3 of Coalesce, and welcome to the stage, the bold, the brilliant Bilal.
All right. Thank you, Quinn.
You're welcome.
All right. Excellent. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. So first of all, let me begin by thanking you. Thanking you for being here. And thank you for everybody who's remote. This means a lot. I have to start, before we get into the slides, before I start talking about all the cool things we're working on, this is one of the warmest communities I've ever seen. And my big takeaway yesterday was that this is something really, really special. Just the energy and the ecosystem around DBT is truly magical. So thank you also to Quinn for the fantastic introduction. I will say that the only 2 languages that matter today are SQL and Python. All right. So without too much further ado, thank you, DBT community. I'm going to talk a lot about Databricks. I'm going to talk a lot about DBT and how they work really well together. But let me first begin by thanking you for everything you've done. We're seeing some really amazing success with DBT on Databricks. I'm going to run some numbers past you. Some of these may sound like vanity metrics, but believe me, there are tens of thousands of weekly active projects that are running now. They use Databricks and DBT together. We're seeing about 200,000 downloads of DBT Databricks. I'll talk about that in a bit, last month alone. And it's going up and to the right. There are 1,500 of you on Slack. So for those of you who are, I'm seeing some familiar faces, and I saw some familiar handles in Slack as well. So thank you for asking the questions. Thank you for your suggestions. And part of the talk today is actually, a lot of it is guided by what you told me, what you want to hear about. And also, I'm going to be joined here soon by Nana, who is among a set of amazing customers who are using DBT and Databricks together. So thank you. And give yourself a round of applause. I think this is a very special crowd. All right, so let me start a little bit with, I've been doing data for about 10 years, and I have a lot of respect for analytics engineers. You're at the forefront of a revolution. But there are a lot of challenges with the work that we do today. And I, as a DBT user, I hope you can sympathize with this. So what's wrong? What's wrong with the workflow today? So I'll talk about 3 things. The first one is we still live in data silos. Data is still spread throughout the enterprise, throughout the organization. And when we start building our DBT models, sometimes I go, where's the data? I have access to part of it. It might be living in another warehouse. It might be living on a SQL server. We're still not at a place where all the data is accessible to us. And that seems strange. It should be. We're in 2022. We also have multiple copies. So my colleague Adam talked about this yesterday. We have multiple copies. We have limited data. And these silos, they limit what we can do. I'll talk about that in a moment. Governance, it's a loaded word. What we're really talking about is that we live in a world where privacy matters, and it should matter. And it's getting really hard to control access to data. We want to go to insights, we want to get to results, but we also want to be respectful and most of all compliant with the laws of the countries we operate in. So governance is kind of broken right now. I'm going to talk about how we fix that with DBT. And then finally, there's just a lot of tools out there. I think this is amazing. There's a lot of capabilities that are coming out right now. But there's this strange rift between analytics and data science. And I loved how Travis talked about this yesterday, that part of DBT Lab's mission is to fix that. So we believe that's actually huge. And I'll talk about that in a moment. So let's talk a little bit about what happens when you have these limitations. So I want you to think about your own work today and see if these come up. So with data silos, you're just limiting analytics. The knowledge-creating company needs to be able to take all the data and get insights out of it, not parts of the data. Again, this is 2022. We can do better. Poor governance, it just adds business risk. I think all data companies, all knowledge-creating companies, they need to be compliant, and they want to get rid of that risk. And they don't want to be slow. And finally, with disparate tools, we're just spending a lot of time connecting these tools together. It's toil. We want to get to insights. We don't want to have to think about how does this service talk to that service? How does this tool talk to that tool? All right, so at the heart of this is this really fundamental rift. And the Lakehouse, no surprise, solves for this. On the left side, you have the world of data warehouses. And in this world, you actually get tables of data. These data warehouses are designed for relational data. We've all queried them. We've all written SQL queries over tables, and it seems pretty cool. Governance is through SQL. It works fine, right? But then increasingly, we're moving to a world where we also have data lakes. I'm pretty sure a lot of you today have data lakes in your company. Well, these data lakes are built on files. These files have to be governed somehow, but how do you do that? I'll talk about that. But this is where a lot of your data science and machine learning is happening, the unstructured data, the historical archive data. So these two incompatible architectures, they sort of fight each other, and they create the three types of problems that I talked about earlier. We can do better. So my colleague Adam talked yesterday about the Lakehouse. The Lakehouse is a paradigm that actually solves for this. And if you take away one thing, it is that the Lakehouse unifies the world of data lakes and data warehouses. It brings together common tools, so you can do all your BI, all your analytics, and yes, all of DBT on the Lakehouse. And I'll get to that, I promise. Governance is simple. It's simply SQL. That's how you govern. You just write SQL statements, and you do grams. And this works. This is the magic. It works across tables, but it also works across files, and it also works across models. So you don't have to buy another system. You don't have to invent yet another way of keeping your data safe. And then at the end of this, we're all about breaking those data silos. And this is where the magic happens. This is where DBT and Databricks really shine, as you'll see in a demo soon. OK, cool. So let's go a little bit deeper into what it means to break data silos. So to break data silos, the fundamental promise is you can access all your data, everything. And when I say all your data, internally at Databricks, we run analysis on historical data that goes back 10 years. And it's very cost effective. And that is what the Lakehouse does for you. You should be able to do all your IoT streaming, your video analytics, as well as your customer data analytics all in one place. Let's talk a little bit about governance. What does governance mean? I already mentioned this. This is SQL, right? Your governance should be through SQL, but this should govern everything, the tables, the models, the files, not just SQL tables. Everything should be through SQL. And I'll show you an example of this in the demo. This is probably one of the coolest things. But your governance layer should include lineage. Lineage is the future. And I think DBT Labs and the DBT community believes that. And when I talk about lineage, I talk about everything. So when you're looking at a model, at a machine learning model, you have to be able to trace back where the data came from. You have to be able to explain the insights the model is generating. And that's actually part of the Lakehouse platform as well. And finally, in terms of common tools, in this world, SQL and Python are first-class citizens. These are the languages for accessing the Lakehouse. These are the languages for interacting with it. And then all the workloads, BI, machine learning, AI, GPUs, everything can be done on a single unified platform. OK, and then you might be asking yourself, well, where does DBT fit into this? And I think, as I'll show you in the demo in a little bit, DBT is actually fundamental to this. And we're huge fans of DBT because DBT and Databricks thrive in the modern data stack. All right, so now I would like to welcome Nana Essuman onto the stage. And Nana's going to talk to you about a pretty amazing transformation that happens when you take a business that wants to be data-driven, but they're held back by traditional architectures, and what happens when they bring on the Lakehouse. So Nana, join me on stage. And please give it up for Nana.
All right. Awesome. Thank you all, and thanks for attending. And Bilal, thank you for the introduction. So my name is Nana Essuman, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how Condé Nast empowers internal teams with data. So to get started, I would love to introduce myself a little bit. So I'm a trained software engineer with a specialization in big data. Started my career in the healthcare industry, and further on went to railroad transportation and also telecommunications, movie studios and ticketing, and also media companies. Currently today, I lead the global data engineering team at Conde Nast, whereas I focus on the consumer business, the ads business, the subscription business, and the commerce business as well. So enough about me now. Let's move on to the next slide, which is Condé Nast. For those of you who may not know Condé Nast, a little bit of a background of Condé Nast is we are a global media company, house of some of the most iconic brands in the world, such as The New Yorker, Vogue, GQ, Wired, and many as you can see on the slide. The organization I sit under at Condé Nast is the global product technology and data organization. And this organization is primarily responsible for building and providing the various back-end systems to power our iconic brands, to obviously provide compelling content and experiences for everyone. My group, the data engineering group, is part of the GPTD organization within Conde Nast. And my team specifically is responsible for bringing all data points and data sets across our iconic brands into one ecosystem for our analysts and our machine learning engineers and data scientists to make data-driven decisions to help us grow and transform our organization and meet our strategic objectives for the organization. So, of course, we are at a data summit, so I want to show a little bit of numbers in terms of what we obviously do at Condé Nast and what Condé Nast is by the numbers. So we are a company with over 1 billion fans. We have 37 distinct brands globally, and we serve 32 markets globally as well in the world. We publish our content in 26 different languages, and we have a social media of over 400 million, and have a monthly web view of around 360 million as well. And of course, we traditionally first started with the print magazines, and we still have a huge number of subscribers who subscribe to our print publications, about 75 million. So obviously, we're talking about data. So how much data is that across the globe? So we're looking at around 3.3 petabytes of data, which is processed within our ecosystem at Conde Nast globally. So at Condé Nast, we obviously want to be a company which produces the highest quality of content across our digital and our social and video audiences, so we can provide the right content for our consumers. So what does this actually mean in regards to actual detail? Across all our US brands, there's about 8 million daily unique visitors that come to our site, and about 160,000 of them are logged in. So that's about a 20%, roughly 20% daily visitors that are coming to our US sites on a daily basis. All right, so let's move into what I came here to talk about, like why I'm actually on stage next to Bilal and what I wanted to talk to you all about today. So Condé Nast over the past few years has grown to be a very digital-focused company. Today, I would love to walk you through what our data platform journey has looked like, and also how we're empowering our internal teams with data. So just a couple of history. So I joined Condé Nast about 2.5 years ago, so right at the pandemic, so in April 2020. And right before I joined Condé, Condé became a global company, and as part of the globalization plan, we had to ensure we could scale our products and also scale our technology platforms and data on both infrastructure and our data sets as well. Obviously, as a new leader in an organization, obviously during the time of the pandemic, and given the state of the architecture in which Condé Nast was moving towards to be a global company, I had to understand what was going on within the company. So I took the first few months in being in my new role to talk to my data consumers, people who were consuming the data that my team was providing to them. So I spoke to folks from the business. I spoke to my immediate data engineers, which is obviously the most logical thing to do, and also spoke to my data partners, right? I spoke to my data warehousing teams and my data sciences teams as well. And I did that because I really wanted to understand what their challenges were and what I could do to really help transform the organization to the globalization plan and the plans we had to scale our business. Essentially everything Bilal said in his previous slide about data silos and obviously a huge amount of disparate tools were things that I kept hearing from everyone that I was talking to. And what I wanted to do was that seeing that data was housed in multiple places, it was causing lots of duplicated efforts for my data engineers. There was lack of collaboration between the data science group and my group, and the data warehousing group and my group as well. And the data was all over the place. And obviously, due to that, you would obviously run into issues where there is mistrust in the data, which obviously ends up causing folks to not be very trustworthy of the data. So our old architecture is what you're seeing on the slide right now. So what you're seeing here is that we had different data sources integrated directly with our query engine, which was Presto. And we had my data engineers also ran various ETL jobs and processes on Databricks and storing data in S3 and creating managed tables within Databricks as well, and then pointing those to our storage layer. Our warehousing team would also rely on Presto to build their data models and then store their results down into S3 and then work with my data engineers to also point that data set that has been stored in S3 into Presto so people can have access to those data models to then query. Obviously, that wasn't scalable, right? It wouldn't allow us to really scale to the degree that we wanted to as an organization. So what happened was that we wanted to obviously ensure that we could create the path in which we could remove the lack of collaboration and productivity that was happening in the mistrust of data. So we fast forward, went into a journey, right? We set up a vision and a roadmap to ensure that we could actually unify our data. So what we've done now is you've built a unified platform on one infrastructure, utilizing AWS and Databricks, and internally it's called Evergreen. This platform is available and deployed globally across all 3 geographical areas, namely North America, EMEA, and APAC. Reason is based on the amount of brands we support globally in 32 markets we support, we have to ensure that our infrastructure is also globally available for them to store their data and also run the analysis. We've also built reusable data ingestion frameworks for our 4 main sources, utilizing the Databricks platform for ETL. And we also follow the medallion architecture. So we store our data in bronze, silver, gold. So today, our data warehouse engineers, and what some of you might call analytics engineers, now are empowered with DBT to build transformation on top of our silver-level data sets, which are available to query through Databricks. So going back to what Bilal was showing, we have that connection directly between DBT and Databricks to enable us to pull data into DBT to build the data models that they wanted to, and also have them store that data into the Lakehouse to enable them to also make that data available to the enterprise as well. So on top of DBT, we also have Astronomer, which is used to trigger our DAG so we can have an end-to-end chain to enable us to obviously have that data ingest to data transformation layer. Now, our analysts and our marketers can derive the same insights from one data set, and our data scientists as well can use the same data sets, whether it's silver or gold, to build the various ML use cases that they have, such as our newsletter personalization products, our subscriber propensity models, and churn models and on-site recommendations as well. So this is the state that we're in. It's really improved our productivity and decreased the dependency on my data engineers, and I'll get into a few success metrics that we've measured. So now let's look at the benefits and the success of this platform. So to be very frank, the benefits that we've gotten from the platform is still evolving, and there's many more to come, I'm hoping. But we've had a very, and I mean it, a very, very, very seamless integration with DBT Cloud today. I recall back in 2020, which was actually when our DBT journey started, we first installed DBT Core on our laptops, and we connected it to Databricks to test it out because we kept hearing the buzz about DBT, and it was very buzzy. So we wanted to understand what it actually meant. And after a week of the POC, we knew we had to get in touch with Fishdown Analytics. I like the name better, by the way. And this was obviously, this was actually the time in which the DBT Cloud was being launched. So it was perfect timing for us, right? At Condé Nast, we have a huge number of data engineers and data scientists and data warehouse engineers. So we obviously wanted to ensure that we could have a platform which obviously enables us to scale better and also give them the ability to empower themselves and their teams. So we went to Fishtown and we went to DBT Labs, sorry. We went to DBT Labs and spoke with them to understand what could we do. And the pitch was easy, personally. The pitch internally was very easy to my boss at the time because we could show the value that getting a tool like DBT Cloud into our ecosystem would do. And it's also integrated very well into our systems. And looking at the strategic roadmap that he had set, we could also see that it was going towards the path that we wanted to go as an organization from a data perspective. So we wanted to obviously work out with them. Shout out to Randy Pitcher, if he's in the room. He really, really held our hands hand to hand. So Randy really held our hands to ensure that we had a very smooth integration with DBT Cloud on Databricks as well, to really ensure that our warehouse engineers and our data engineers could actually speed up their development and also break the barriers that we had faced in the past. So today, I'm really, really excited to state that we do now provide silver and gold level data sets which are built on top of DBT through Databricks to our organization through this one platform, and all our data sets living in one area. I'm also excited to say that our data scientists who utilize features to build their model personalization models and their churn models are using the same data sets that our insight, our marketers and our analysts are using as well from one platform. And to be very frank, the last one is my most favorite because my finance team will love me to say this, but I can now control the cost of my entire infrastructure on one platform, which obviously ensures that whatever DBT is using from an infrastructure standpoint in Databricks, I can report how much it's costing, how much my analysts are also using to run their queries, and report that back to them in terms of what that cost looks like. So it's a very important point to me because I think obviously as you're building your data infrastructure, you want to be cautious of that as well. So how are we seeing success, and what does success really mean for us? So success to us, what we've seen is that we've seen a 30% increase in self-service across our data warehouse engineers. We've also seen about 85 DBT models till today being built on top of the Evergreen platform, which is built on top of AWS and Databricks across various domains in the organization, such as our subscription business, our consumer business, our content business, and our commerce business as well. We've also seen about 16 hours per sprint being saved between the data integration between data engineers and data warehouse engineers. Again, going back to the point of before, a warehouse engineer would build a model, store it into S3, and then a data engineer would have to work with them to make that table available within Presto. So that time that was gone into that has now actually been saved through the platform. We also been able to build reusable and centralized macros that we can, in our DBT instance, so we can reuse common things and common metrics which are used within the organization from the one platform. And I'm saving the best for the last two. The last two is my favorite. So data lineage, going back to Bilal's point, we're now able to see the lineage of our data models all the way from our silver level tables to gold level tables and BI tools that are consuming the data as well. And integrity. We can build DBT tests in different areas of our models to make sure that we are checking for the data integrity and ensuring that the mistrust of data that used to be there is now taken away, and we can catch that more proactively before a business person does report that to us. So again, all this won't be possible without the highly talented data warehouse engineers and data engineers and colleagues at Condé. So I really applaud them for the work and helping me see the vision that we had from the start to actually come to fruition as well. So before I pass it back to Bilal, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Condé Nast technology advantage. So at Condé Nast, we pride ourselves in obviously ensuring that we collect our first-party data collection and also have data partnerships with other partners to ensure that we can connect our first-party data sets to offline behaviors. We also have a strategic partnership with Databricks, Fivetran, and AWS. I would love to add DBT to that, so whoever I need to talk to, let me know. All right, cool. So we've also built AI and ML infrastructure to ensure that we can grow our digital business. And with investments that had been made years ago, long before I started in 2017, with a far-sighted roadmap, really ensure that we could build and have really highly caliber data engineers, data scientists, machine learning engineers within our teams, and also build a data infrastructure similar to larger tech organizations and media publishing companies in the world as well. And the last point, which is we really, really wanted to make sure that our organization does have data as a very core component of its business, so we can drive and grow our strategic objectives as a company. So thank you for your attention. I would love to pass this back to Bilal and hear about the roadmap and what's coming next.
All right, thank you, Nana.
Thank you,
Please
Bilal.
give it up for Nana. All right, so Condé Nast is a pretty remarkable company. Nana is a very remarkable gentleman. And I will tell something which is completely unscripted. I was chatting with Nana, and he was telling me about the work that he's been doing. It's pretty revolutionary. They're bringing together data silos. They're using DBT. They're enabling their teams. And I had this moment of realization. I subscribe to The New Yorker, and that's a Condé company. And I realized that the personalized recommendations are incredible. I've been reading more and more of The New Yorker online, and I think we have Nana to thank for that. So excellent recommendations. You know me really well. So nicely done. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about what's over the horizon. What's the product roadmap? What are we actually doing at Databricks with DBT? And what are some best practices? I know that best practices is in the title of the talk, and I do want to talk a little bit about, for those of you who are building Databricks, DBT projects on Databricks, what can you do to get more out of it? OK, so actually let's start with getting more out of Databricks. And we're actually going to do a blog post. So Tahir is here. He's writing a blog post. We'll be doing a series of content about DBT. And we actually would love your input. For those of you who are building these projects, what's missing, what's working for you. Well, let's get through a few tips and tricks. So the first thing is, sort of the high-level takeaway is that a lot of DBT packages now work with Databricks. This wasn't true a couple of years ago. But thanks to the hard work by companies like Brooklyn Data, if they're here, give you a shout out. There are more and more packages that work on Databricks. So the first thing you should do is use DBT CodeGen to just generate your source files. That works really well. So if you're starting from existing data and you want to treat those like sources in DBT, just do that. It works really well. This is one of my favorites. It's the DBT Project Evaluator, and it just runs a best practices. It's a bit meta. It's best practices about best practices. It's actually really good. The last one is, this is one of my favorite packages out there. It's called DBT Artifacts. And the Brooklyn Data team, who are pretty remarkable people, you should talk to them if you're here. They're experts in DBT, and they're actually experts in big data projects in general. But they took the DBT Artifacts package and did a pull request to it, which now it works with the Lakehouse. And what this does is it's a couple of lines in your YAML file, and you actually get model metrics and a lot more in Delta tables. So you can then build dashboard analyzing. I see some nodding heads here. It's pretty amazing. It's really awesome stuff. The other thing is, we're working hard at Databricks on making a lot of the tables auto-optimizing. But until those start rolling out, you should use DBT hooks to run optimize and analyze. And finally, I'm a huge fan of SQL Fluff. If you're not using it, please do. It's a SQL linter. I write good SQL, but I format it terribly, and this keeps me honest. So in our DBT projects, this is a requirement for Bilal to commit to run SQL Fluff. OK, let's talk a little bit about what's coming over the horizon from Databricks for DBT. So one of my most exciting things that I get to work on with the community is DBT Databricks. So DBT Databricks is a native package. It is the best way to connect DBT with Databricks. And let me start by first thanking the open source community, because it's forked off of DBT Spark. So all the committers, all the reviewers, thank you for all your hard work. What we've done is we've streamlined this. We took this awesome package, we streamlined it. Super easy setup, high performance, great sane defaults out of the box, so fewer knobs for you to tweak. And it supports Unity catalog, so you get a 3-level namespace. You get catalog, schema, and tables. And this sort of quietly, it automatically accelerates all the SQL using our new execution engine, Photon. So pretty awesome. It's just pip install. Moving on, DBT Cloud, as you may have heard from Nana, works really, really well with Databricks. If you're not using it, please use DBT Cloud. It's the best place in the world to build DBT projects. And what's really cool is, if you're logged into Databricks, you can click on Partner Connect. And if you're not using DBT Cloud, with a single click, you can start a trial. And what we'll do is we work with the DBT Labs team, Fishtown Analytics, as they used to be known as. And we'll actually set up the connection between DBT Cloud and Databricks. And we'll provision a warehouse for you as well, so it's a place to run SQL. It's really awesome, and it's just getting better and better over time. It's where I do my DBT development. Next, this is something I'm really proud of. Databricks Workflows, which is a highly scalable, fully managed orchestrator. This is what runs all your production jobs on Databricks. This now supports DBT projects. So what does this mean for you? This means that you can now run DBT projects with confidence in production, and it's super simple to use. It's point and click. Of course, it has an awesome API as well. And what we'll do is we'll take care of all the toil behind the scenes for you. We'll install a sane version of DBT Core. You can even customize it if you want. We will then connect to the SQL warehouse. We'll do all the profile YAML generation. And then I don't like to wake up at 2 in the morning because my DBT project failed because of some reason. So it has monitoring. It has retries. It has Slack integration. We're just rolling out more and more features for this orchestrator. And we also understand DBT projects, and this is pretty cool. DBT is open, and we actually we collect lineage automatically. So all the lineage is automatically collected. It's available in Databricks through APIs and through queries. And then we also make the artifacts available for you for download. So it's pretty cool. This is in public preview. And the PM for this is over here. So please come talk to us. We'd love to sign you up at the Databricks booth. OK, moving on. Let's talk a little bit about what's coming for DBT on Databricks before we go to a demo. So this has been a very common question. Hey, when will we get DBT Databricks on DBT Cloud? A lot of smart people are working really, really hard on it. What I'll say is it's just around the corner. So that's next. This is very exciting. We will be introducing a new materialization called materialized views. It's an incrementalization strategy. And if you don't know materialized views, it's a view that gets materialized into a table. And what's really cool about the way we're doing this is we're going to give you a cost latency or freshness cost trade-off. So you can tune it if you want. You can say, I want it super fresh. It's constantly updating. Or you can say, no, I want to spend less money. And this is just another incrementalization strategy. It's also in preview. It's early days. We're super excited about it. So come talk to us if you have questions. Moving on, ingest is actually now supported. So we know that DBT, a lot of people think about DBT as well as the T in ELT. But actually, a lot of you are using DBT to also load data into tables. So now, super exciting, we just merged the pull request for copy into. So it's a SQL command for loading data from cloud storage. And there's a lot more coming. More Python support. There's a lot more coming. We'll show you a demo. More lineage. That's super cool. But most importantly, please come talk to us about what you want to build. The easiest way to do this, for those of you who are online, is join us on Slack. So we have a Slack channel. I'll share that. OK. All right, without much further ado, I think we're going to move on to a demo. And hopefully you get to see how the Lakehouse brings together the best of DBT and the best of machine learning together. Oh, let's go back. I think we have to cue the video. Perfect. All right. So once again, please. All right. So in this demo, I'm going to pretend that I am an analytics engineer, and my boss has said, hey, we want to do a retail prediction. We have stores that sell items, and I want you to build a prediction and make it available to the business. All right. So in this, as you can see, there's some sample data. There's there's items in stores. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with DBT Cloud. And like I said, it's the best place to build DBT projects. We love working with DBT Cloud. So over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Partner Connect in Databricks. And I am going to search by partner name. And I'm just going to type DBT in here. OK, there it is. It's already set up over here for the purposes of a demo. But it's literally 2 clicks. Please do it. Please try out DBT Cloud. It's pretty awesome. OK. Now, once that's done, I'm going to go do what analytics engineers do day in and day out. I'm going to go write some SQL queries, and I'll put some macros in there. So in a moment, we're going to switch over to the awesome DBT Cloud, and I'm going to start typing in some queries. And this is just a preview. These queries are going to run on a SQL warehouse. There's a little bit more of that coming. So now over here, I go into DBT Cloud. I type in some, I create my YAMLs, my sources. I type in some SQL. And this is my workbench. And what you're going to see here is that now when I hit preview, this is going to run SQL against Databricks. And it's absolutely seamless. And what you're going to see is the warehouse is going to come up in a couple of seconds. So this is serverless warehouses. They're awesome. They come up super fast. They scale up really fast. They scale down really fast. They save you time and money. And they're super performant. And we're just making them better all the time. So that's it. That's all it took, right? So we want you to spend a lot of your time in DBT Cloud. We want you to use that as your workbench. And we want you to not worry about the infrastructure in the background. All right, so now this is what I did. I started a DBT run. And what this is going to do is it's going to do the usual loop in DBT. It's going to compile my SQL. It's going to start submitting it against the warehouse. And you can see it's just really rapid. It's really snappy. So gone are the days of creating clusters, figuring out sizes, setting up Spark configuration. This is just a SQL warehouse. It just works magically and just gets out of your way. All right, so now this SQL is running, but sometimes you want to go look at the queries. You want to say, hey, what is actually running? I do that all the time. I go back and I look at my queries. So let's switch back to Databricks. And in the query history page for your SQL warehouses, you're going to see all the DBT queries coming in. And no more Spark UI. This is just SQL. And we're not going to show you, I'm not going to show you all the query debugging you can do, but you can actually get the query plan. It streams in real time. You can profile the query. You can figure out why. And by the way, notice it says Fishdown Analytics. We should fix that. Is the query source. I think we like the name too. I think I like DBT Labs better. OK, perfect. So, so far you're like, OK, I'm an analytics engineer. I've got a single model running. That's boring. But let me show you something much cooler. So now I'm back in Databricks SQL. And Databricks SQL is your workbench for typing in SQL, getting insights. I'm going to run a query for a single store. And I am going to build some visualizations. So a lot of times, as an analytics engineer, you're writing SQL. You're trying to understand the shape of the data so you can understand what SQL to write next. You shouldn't have to use a BI tool. You shouldn't have to download something. This is included in Databricks. So what I'm doing now is I'm creating a visualization off of store sales for a single store. And I just want to put that in a dashboard. And a lot of analytics journeys actually end right there. You know, you've built some models, you've built some visualizations, your business is happy. But remember, we're on a path to do predictive analytics. And this is where the Lakehouse has some really magical capabilities. We're going to get to those in a moment. So, OK, so this is for a single store. I'm just showing historical sales. Let's see how we do predictions. But before we do that, let me show you Databricks workflows. And Databricks workflows, which you can see here, is a DAG, a directed acyclic graph of work. And over here, I'm setting up the DBT project I just created. So at this point, with a few, I think it's been like 5 minutes, I am able to take a DBT project that's created in DBT Cloud. I'm going to set up a Git repository. So the workflows integrates with Git, because that's our source of truth, right? We don't want to copy stuff around. And I'm running DBT. And that's it. There's nothing else to set up. And now your DBT project is going to run. And you can run a notebook before it. You can train a model after that. You can call APIs. All of this is fully orchestrated. We want this to get out of your way so you can get your work done. OK, perfect. So now, and by the way, this is pretty cool. It's going to refresh the dashboard in the background, too, as part of the job. So we want to bring in data. We want to run our DBT models. And we want to refresh our dashboard. And it's just point and click. All right. So now let's go do some data science magic. I'm terrible at data science. I'm OK with Python. So what I'm going to do here in a moment is I'm going to show you how someone like me, who's not very talented at machine learning, builds their very first model. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a notebook. And notice here that it supports SQL. It's the same SQL I've been typing in DBT Cloud and Databricks SQL. And it's the same visualization. So it's completely unified. It's not another tool to learn. And what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to start building a very simple model. And before I do that, I'm just going to maybe visualize some data. I'm going to start thinking about, OK. But remember, our goal here is to take store sales and predict them for every store for every item. So candy bars in the store in Albany, New York. Now, I don't know about you. I tend to go to the Python community. There are just a ton of packages, including Profit. So I'm going to use that now for time series prediction. It takes care of a lot of things I don't know how to do, such as seasonality. And I am just going to write a few lines of code. And honestly, I copied most of this from Stack Overflow. Like I said, I'm not a very good data scientist. But what's kind of cool here is this little thing that's happening where Databricks is logging your experiment. You don't really have to do anything. But as a data scientist, as a bad data scientist like me, even I get the value of being able to track my model metrics over time. It tracks all the artifacts, the model metrics, everything that's going on with my machine learning experiment. All of that is tracked centrally for me. So then what I do is I start writing some Python. I start building some predictions. And wait for it. In just a moment, you're going to see def model DBT session. And that is DBT's Python support. It's fully baked in. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the store sales data frame, and I am going to build a regression, and I'm just going to call a UDF to put in the prediction. That's it. Even I can do it. And finally, I return this data frame, and it gets materialized by DBT. That's it. That's all it took to take analytics engineering, and extend it to machine learning. It's pretty magical. And before I do that, even I know that I should use Git. So I'm going to go ahead and just commit my work into Git directly from the notebook. And now it's available to DBT Cloud. It's that simple. OK, so as a last item, let's see what's going on in workflows. Because remember, that's where we were orchestrating our work. And in just a moment, you're going to see something cool. Everything's working. So what's happened in the background is workflows has run everything end to end. And you can see, you're going to see something 4 of 4. that it's picked up the Python model and it's run successfully. So what you're seeing here is something pretty remarkable, which is all your DBT models and the SQL models as well as the Python models, they're now running on Databricks, and you're running them in production. And that took, I think, about 9 minutes from beginning to end. Pretty awesome. OK, but let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and show this to the business. What I'm going to do now is I go back to visualizations, to my dashboard, and I'm able to add my predictions there. So we get, that's fine. We can leave it there. Moving on, just as a quick recap, right? So what's going on here is that Databricks and DBT Labs work really well together. And if there's one takeaway that you take away from this, which is we take care of the compute, we provide a wonderful, hopefully, notebook and exploratory data experience, and DBT Labs is the place you go and build your DBT project, and it all just works together. So hopefully you too will try this out, and hopefully your projects go from inception to production fast. OK, I want to wrap up maybe a few minutes early, but I want to tell you about some cool things that are happening. So first of all, the repo that I showed you is available. The QR code is for the repo. So please check it out, clone it. If you find any issues, bug me. It's probably my fault. The second thing is, please visit our booth. And we have a party tonight, the Lakehouse party. But stop by the booth first. And you're going to get a little band there. And then you can just walk into the party without anything else. And most importantly, please join us on Slack. So there's the Slack for Coalesce for this session. But there's also the DB, Databricks, and Spark Slack, where we hang out every day. We're there. So come with your suggestions. Come with your comments and questions. And that's it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and give Bilal one more round of applause. And Nana as well. Well, I don't know about you, but every single time you have an opportunity to see how DBT is partnering with amazing partners, but also getting a customer's perspective as well, I think is always super insightful. And for all of you who are joining us online, thank you so much. Please know that the conversation will continue on Slack. If you're here in person, I know that Nana and Bilal will be absolutely walking around and answering questions, but you can still get those questions and those comments answered by literally joining the Slack channel. So you can really keep the conversation going. And you can find that at Coalesce, DBT Labs, and Databricks. And again, that is in the community Slack channel. Now, speakers will be around to answer those questions as well as, again, be on Slack. Now, here is what's happening for the rest of the day. Ecosystem talks are happening in Celestin F all day, so check your app or your website to figure out which session that you want to attend. Also happening are talks led by community members like yourself. We have those happening in Celestin A, B, and C. Some of those that you can get used to or hands-on. The DBT semantic layer is happening in Celestin A. Announcing DBT's second language, when and why we turn to Python, is happening in Celestin A at 11:45. Another hands-on session that you can look forward to is the new DBT Cloud IDE, and that's happening at 4:45, also in Celestin A. Now, if you're registered for training, that's happening upstairs in the 4th floor in Imperial number 5. Certification is also happening on the 4th floor in Imperial 12. Lunch today is at 12 to 1:15 for those of you in person. And Storyville Hall is from 1:15 to 2:15, and I look forward to personally seeing you there. And be sure to stop by the sponsor stations in Storyville Hall, and as well as meet everyone from the DBT team. Check your app for festivities and after parties hosted by sponsors or members of the DBT community. Bilal mentioned his, happening at 6 o'clock. We're also excited that London and Sydney, who are joining us online, will be actually hosting their own Coalesce experience. How cool is that? So this will be an in-person chance to interact with like-minded humans. So if you are in London, you can actually join at the Queen Elizabeth II Center, which is at the Broadway Sanctuary, for all that Coalesce fun. If you're in Sydney, you're going to be at the iconic Arbor Bridge, and that's actually on the skyline against the backdrop of Sydney as well. So I want you to enjoy the rest of your sessions that are happening if you're right here in person in New Orleans, but also if you are online, be sure to tune in and make sure that you are absolutely participating in the Slack channel and connecting, collaborating, but more importantly, coalescing. We'll see you soon.